Hello, you guys. What time is it? It is like 11:30 right now. I'm just getting myself showered and ready for the day. I just kind of spent the day. I woke up this morning and just got right to work. Did my usual meditation in the morning, and then I did jump on my trampoline for a little bit of movement there. So now getting myself ready for the day. And like I said, it's 11:30 right now, and I thought we would chat today about how to stop thinking about food all the time. Because that is one thing that you guys ask me a lot. That is one thing that I've struggled with a lot. And it was what made this morning possible for me to focus on work all morning. I had breakfast, but I didn't think about food in between when I wasn't hungry. I mean, when you have food rules, it's so easy to obsess, or you're dieting, or you just don't have a good, healthy relationship with food. It's so easy to obsess and really think about food all the time. So we're gonna address that today. I'm gonna get myself together so you don't have to look at me in my robe and my towel all day. And then I'm also gonna make lunch because I'm really excited. I got a loaf of bread from the bakery earlier this week. I'm gonna make a really good sandwich. It's gonna be kind of random, but I wanna show it to you just to show you that get creative with food. It doesn't always have to be so mainstream, I guess, so stay tuned for that. But I'm gonna go get myself ready, and then I will meet you guys down in the kitchen. I'm so thirsty right now. I need some water. I'll meet you guys down in the kitchen and we will chat about that. So thirsty, you guys. Before we dive into it, I want to let you guys know that I'm hosting a free 5-day challenge to help you learn to become an intuitive eater and find what's called your set point weight, which is essentially what some people call your happy weight, or the weight that your body wants to be. When you eat intuitively and you find food freedom, you guys, you know this by now if you follow my channel. Some people are going to gain weight, lose weight, maintain weight, and it's not bad. They all happen. And this is actually something we're talking a lot on the Society podcast. So the Society is where I do all of my coaching, and we're really going in depth on the podcast. So I can link to the podcast in the description so you can catch up to that. But guys, this is, if you have been like, okay, I'm kind of into this stuff, or I want to really learn how to be an intuitive eater, be sure to join the Set Point Weight Challenge. I'm really going to guide you through what I teach in the Society and give you a real overview of how to become an intuitive eater. So I will link to that in the description. June 6th to June 10th of 2021 is when that is happening. So if you're watching this in real time, I got you. If you're watching it later, I do these like once a year only, guys. So stay tuned. Be sure to subscribe to the channel to get updates on the next one. But without further ado, like I said, I'll link to all that in the description. You do not want to miss it. Let's get into how the heck do you stop thinking about food all the time. So there are 3 reasons why people commonly kind of obsess over food and think about it all day. And the first reason is that you're not getting enough food. And I don't mean to society standards. I mean, your body is not getting enough food. So a lot of times we think, oh, well, I'm eating 3 meals a day. I'm eating snacks every day. But that might be just like what diet culture wants you to think, these small snacks, and you're not actually giving your body enough sustenance, enough energy. So think of it this way, guys. Thinking about food is a hunger cue. It's not always just grumbling in our stomach. Thinking about food is kind of your body's way of saying, okay, this is what I need, so I'm gonna send her like all of these thoughts about food. So there's a couple ways that you can think about this. You can think about it like, say I use a swimming pool analogy a lot. So let's say that you have to swim from one end of the pool to the other end of the pool totally underwater. And with this, I mean, at first you're swimming along, you're underwater, it's fine. But then the more that air is restricted, the more you start to think about, oh my gosh, like I'm holding my breath. I think I need air. And then when you realize, I think I need air, you're gonna start to think about the air more and more and more. And it's just like, oh my gosh, I need to get to the surface. I need air. That's kind of the same thing. Or you could use the analogy of the fact that you have to pee, right? I have a totally real life example of this. At first, your urge to pee starts off like dull, and you're kind of like, oh yeah, I kind of gotta pee. But as time goes on, you just start to think, oh my gosh, I really have to pee. Like I need to get to a bathroom. And all you can think about is your full bladder, right? I specifically, this happens a lot. It happened when we were taking our dog for a walk. I was with my husband, and I was like, I have to pee. And then as we were on our way home, thankfully. But as time went by, I actually had to say to him, like, I can't concentrate on what you're saying because all I can think about is my pee. Like, I have to pee. So it's kind of that same thing where our brain starts to think about what it needs. So if you're constantly thinking about food all the time, it might be that you need more food. Now, I also want to address the fact that there's a difference between being full and being satisfied, okay? So you might also be thinking, well, I feel full, but I still think about food. I still want food, there's a difference between being full and satisfied. So think about this example. You could sit down to when I was dieting and following food rules, I'm totally guilty of this. You sit down to this giant plate of cauliflower rice, right? And you are like, yeah, I get to eat all that food. Look at that volume. But then you walk away from the table and yes, you're like, oh, I'm so full right now. 20 minutes later, it's like I would find myself in the pantry looking for something, or I have cookies on the counter right now, looking at those and just being like, I need that. Like, you think about food, right? That's because you're physically full, but you might not be satisfied. Satisfied in the sense of your body doesn't have the macronutrients it needs or the energy. So if you had that plate of cauliflower rice, your body might be like, okay, that's great. I'm full of volume, but I still need carbs and actual calories and fuel to actually allow this body to function. So it's going to say, okay, I need that, so I'm going to think about it. There's a difference between being full and satisfied, guys. I wish that people knew this more, because it's not your failure at not following your fullness. It's just that you're not listening to your body and giving it truly what it needs. You're just following these diet culture food rules, right? So that's one example where there's a difference between being full and being satisfied. And it also could be that you're just eating something that you don't actually like. Now, this is really common in the beginning phases of finding food freedom, learning to eat intuitively. You probably don't know what you like, right? And we focus on this in actually stage number 1. So there's 5 stages that I teach in the society, is finding satisfaction. What do you find satisfying? Flavors, textures, ingredients, those sorts of things. It's about so much more than just giving your body nutrients. Food should have that emotional component and that satisfying and that enjoyment part of it, right? We have to also acknowledge that in order to kind of stop thinking about food. Okay, reason number 2 that you can't stop thinking about food is that you're probably putting it into 2 camps and you're labeling food as good or bad. Now, I talk about this idea more in my video on sugar addiction, which I can link up there and in the description for you guys. But essentially, when we deem food as bad, we are actually increasing our brain's reward and motivation for that food, okay? Because we kind of feel like we shouldn't have it. It's like telling a 5-year-old, hey, don't press the big red button. They're just gonna wanna press the big red button, right? The same thing kind of happens when we label foods as good or bad. And then when you actually allow yourself to eat it, that reward, that motivation from your brain is actually heightened, so you're gonna want to eat more of it. Now, this could happen for a couple reasons. There is that we're putting it off limits, and there's that psychological component that's kind of like, oh my gosh, I better get it now because I'm not usually allowed this food. That's one reason. The other reason is, let's go back to that pool analogy. So say that you are swimming from one end of the pool to the other end of the pool, totally underwater, and when you get to that end of the pool, after, in this instance, air is restricted, what happens when you get to that end of the pool? You're gonna take a big breath of air. Same thing happens with either overall food or types of food. So those foods that you're deeming bad and you're not allowing yourself to have, likely after you restrict them and you get access to them again, it's gonna be, I'm gonna take in large amounts of food. So there is that thinking about it, but then there's also that large amount that you're probably going to ingest because it's like, wow, I haven't had this in forever. I don't know when I'm gonna get it again. So I need to get it now while I can, right? So we have got to work on neutralizing food. And by that, guys, I do not mean that all food is the same. It's not. It's nutritionally not. It's satisfaction-wise not. Enjoyment-wise not. It's not the same, but we have to level the playing field and not give it moral value. Food is different. It's not good or bad. Some foods are gonna nourish our bodies more, and some foods are gonna nourish our souls more, but we deserve both of them. And the third common reason why people feel like they can't stop thinking about food is because they may be using it as an emotional crutch. So I have a whole video on overcoming emotional eating. So I highly recommend watching that one if you're like, I think this is where I'm at. But essentially, sometimes we put a lot of pressure on the food that we consume to fix a lot of our issues, right? I'm using a lot of quotes, but we put this pressure, oh, I think the mail's here. But we put a lot of this weight on the food, right, to fix these things. And we put the food on this pedestal almost that it's going to be this fixer of things, essentially. And so that could be a reason that you are thinking about food all the time, because you are thinking about the food as a way to avoid thinking about your emotions, stress, anxiety, life situations. Your body is using food as a coping mechanism so that it is thinking about that versus actually handling the things that are at play. And we have a whole video lesson in the society on emotional eating and how to work through that and workbooks. But essentially, we have to learn how to cope with our emotions. That's one of the things that, yes, guys, It's important to be able to eat the cookies, eat the cakes, but it's so much more than that to make peace with food in your body. It is about learning to not use food to cope. It is about learning to feel your feelings, because a lot of the reasons that we think about food is for a source of control or coping. Maybe you're thinking about food as a way of source of control because you feel like everything, that's what it was. It was kind of a mix of both for me, the emotional side of things and the control. There was times in my life when it was like more the control, more the emotional side of things, but essentially we can use food as a way to cope with those things. So if you are like, yeah, well, I don't really eat emotionally, well, maybe you're not eating emotionally and you are restricting emotionally because you're trying to control the food as a way to try to control other areas of your life. So those are three very, very common reasons that people feel like they can't stop thinking about food. And also, it could be a mix of all three. It's not like, okay, boom, number two is the one that's getting me. It can be a mix of all three, and that can kind of ebb and flow throughout our life. Now, I also want to note that it's different to be like for instance, last night, I was like, oh, my husband made a plate he made spaghetti. He typically cooks dinner every Wednesday. It was Wednesday yesterday. And I was like, I'm really excited just for a plate of spaghetti. Like, that sounded so good and satisfying. You should be excited about food. Food is meant to be enjoyed, but there's a difference between being excited about food and fixating on food. So just gonna keep that note. It's about finding, I hate the term balance, but yes, hashtag balance in these things. And I think another real life example is this morning for me. That's why I wanted to talk to you guys about this today. I wasn't thinking about food all morning. I was able to actually focus on my work. And then I have this cookie right here that I'm gonna dig into after my lunch, which I'm gonna show you what I'm gonna make in a minute. I wasn't thinking about it because I know that I have unconditional permission to eat it. I can eat it whenever I want. There's no pull for me to think about that food all the time. So it's a journey to get here, guys. Watching this video, it's not gonna be like, hey, boom, now I heard those 3 points. I'm going to find food freedom, right? It takes so much more than that. That's really why I'm putting on that free 5-day challenge that I talked about at first. So if you're watching this in real time, you definitely want to sign up for that because we're going through all these things, right? It's 5 days of really helping you find your set point weight, which essentially is what happens when we become an intuitive eater, right? We finally make peace with food in our body. So be sure again to sign up for that in the description. And now I'm going to make lunch. I'm going to make a sandwich, but I'll show you in a second. Let's do it. Okay guys, I gotta like crouch so that you can see me. So I'm gonna make kind of a random sandwich today, but I feel like people don't like get creative with food enough. Like, we always follow strict recipes, but I'm always like, what do I have that I can use? So we're gonna get creative today. I got this loaf of bread from the bakery, 50% off yesterday's bakes. Guys, I swear carbs taste better when they're 50% off. So I'm going to cut a couple slices of that for my Sammy. Oh, it smells so good. I also just realized my shirt says eat spaghetti, no regretti. I should have worn this yesterday. Okay, got my slices of bread. Oh my gosh. Guys, this smells so good. I'm going to pop that back in there. Throw it over there. And okay, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna make like a random chicken salad here. So I just did a bunch of chicken in the Instant Pot earlier this week on Sunday. It's Thursday now, in the Instant Pot to use. So I just put a chicken breast in there. I think I did it for 23 minutes, and then just shred it with electric beaters. Guys, it's the best tip ever, and Theo's coming. So I'm just going to put handful of chicken in here. I have this Trader Joe's spinach and kale Greek yogurt dip. Hi Theo, hi honey. I'm gonna kind of use this because I need to use it up. It's like gonna expire. So I'm gonna put this on my chicken. Couple things. I feel like honey, don't steal that. I feel like we kind of overhype, like with intuitive eating and food freedom, like everything should be exactly what you want in the moment. Sometimes I talk about this a lot. You just have to be practical, you guys. I don't know if this is gonna be good, but that's okay. I have so many more chances to have an amazing meal in my life. Oh yeah, baby. Yeah, I did a lot of chicken here. I can just eat it with a fork after. Okay. Okay, now I'm gonna put my spinach on here. I kind of wanna rip it up a little bit. And I'm gonna put my hat on. And we have our sandwich, you guys. And I also have just some air fryer carrots. I have a recipe I'll link to the description for you. I just made a big batch earlier this week to use, but yeah, let's freaking eat. Oh my God. All right, guys, I hope this video was helpful in giving you some tips on why you might be thinking about food, give you a place to start to stop thinking about food all the time, because life just gets better when you're not obsessing over food. I'm gonna go have some of this cookie now. All right, guys, if you like this video, as always, be sure to give it a thumbs up, hit subscribe down there, leave a comment. It really helps to support me making more of this food freedom content for you guys. I'm gonna go enjoy this cookie, and I will see you guys next week with another video, 11 a.m. Eastern time, and I will see you in the challenge if you're joining us. It's gonna be a party. See you later.